Now we're going to talk about comedy before we leave
Hell
because
yeah. Finally, right?
finally, although we are out of time, so we'll probably have to do this again, this
We
segment,
have like
10
12
minutes.
minutes.
Okay, so this segment is now called The Money Shot, and on the A Lot of Things. We had the beginning entertainment, and we had deep dive, and now these are Money Shot.
I'm
Money
actually
Shot.
proud of myself. You actually like it. And you're the professional.
I do like
so
it.
I appreciate
I
it.
like it.
Yes.
It's like what you've been waiting for at the end.
Yes, the money shot.
Although next time maybe it'll be a little longer. So what happened is this conversation we're going to have in the Money Shot started because I made a sketch. I think this is kind of why I wanted to bring it up. Is I made a sketch quickly and a really really short sketch about Chappelle because both Carlos and I have thoughts on Chappelle and his last special, which is the closer, and the short version of what I think. The very short version is I thought that it was kind of like a TED Talk. He just basically talked about the trans community and I didn't like how his energy was. And it felt not funny and like not really a comedy special. And so I made a quick little sketch with two characters. And again, it's funny because all the comments were so rough, but it was two characters, not me specifically saying how I feel. And one character was like, yo, Chappelle's the GOAT. Did you see his new special? It was so good. And like, that's it. Which, again, I can't even comprehend how someone could say that, but I'm sure they said that out there. The other character's like, oh, you mean that spiteful TED Talk where he talked down about the trans community, basically the whole time? He's like, you don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. And that's all the sketch was, right? Just kind of like the beginning of a discussion. And all of the comments most of them are like 99% were negative, and all these downvotes and tons of things. And one was like really like bad towards me. And I actually removed that one. But I'm usually really good about killing things with comedy, and I went into the comments and I actually had pretty good discussions with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And again, saying like, these are characters, and I wanted to get the conversation started. But the way that it was so skewed towards negativity, and like, if you don't think Dave Chappelle's the GOAT, you're an asshole, and also you're dumb for thinking these ways, and I don't like you.
Right.
So that just got me so like frustrated and it just confused. And before this skit that I did, we had already talked about how we didn't understand why Chappelle had so much reverence, I think. So that's the starting point.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why he has so much reverence. I just don't understand why people don't understand that he can also be held accountable for what the things that he says, and people don't have to be accepting of it, even if it's comedy. So you put out the comedy, then the reaction to the comedy shouldn't be like, everyone should just laugh, right? Because Chappelle's not trying to do comedy anymore, by his own admission. He goes like, the only time people ever take me seriously is I put a punchline behind what I say. I'm like, well, Chappelle, it's because you're a fucking comedian. Right? And then you're selling yourself as a comedian. So if you're doing a TED Talk, say you're doing a TED Talk about transgender issues, or you're doing a TED Talk about race relations in America. But no, we're paying $200 a ticket to come see you make us laugh. So if you are going to offend us, because by his own admission, he has people that support him in the trans community, right? So that's great. Congratulations, right? And by his own admission, most of the people that come to the show are primarily white people. Great. Congratulations, right? So if you say things that are offensive, right, in your comedy, not everyone needs to have to laugh about it. Do we have to agree that you're the GOAT? Fine. Let's say you're the GOAT. But at the same time, the GOAT, all GOATs, Chappelle, Richard Pryor, Carlin, blah, 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 people are going to react, right? And what you want as a comedian is the reaction. Whether that's laughter, which is probably the number one reaction you want, great. But are you telling jokes? Right?
Yeah.
And are your jokes funny? They're not funny to everybody, right? And that's fine. But not everyone has to say everything Chappelle says is funny. Not true. It's never been true.
Right.
Of any
Not
comedian.
anybody. Any
Of
human
any
being.
comedian.
Yeah.
Not Seinfeld, not anybody.
We could talk about Seinfeld too.
I love Seinfeld.
Anyways, yes, to your point though, like
Carlos is laughing because he knows I don't love Seinfeld.
yeah, and I like parts of Seinfeld, but
I like
before we
Seinfeld.
go into that, to your point, Lenny Bruce, one of my favorites.
Family comedian, very, very, green. Just kidding.
Carlos is doing his Carlos thing. No, what I'm saying is that I loved what he did, and I loved the stance he took. He was really fighting against censorship in general. Like they were like taking him off stage. If our younger listeners don't know, Lenny Bruce was a comedian where when he was on stage, certain things he said, police might come in and actually take him off stage because they were considered too lewd.
Yeah.
What's that show that's out?
Yeah, for those who don't know who Lenny Bruce is, just watch the first season of The Marvelous Mrs.
There it
Maisel
is.
on Prime, and he is the comedian that, Either she bails out of jail or he bails her out of jail. So he's a very controversial figure. He's like a Chappelle-like figure. He's more like a Richard Pryor-like figure in the derogatory, like very controversial things that he was saying. But he was saying in the 50s.
Yeah, he was saying it, like when it was like
Yeah.
literally illegal.
Yeah, there's a movie called Lenny, starring Dustin Hoffman that you can
that's
just
right.
download
Yeah,
and see. Boring, but watch it.
Nice. Well, that's kind of to the point. Like, I know what Lenny Bruce was going to bring. And again, it wasn't like the laugh out loud, kill me laughing. Although if I was in the 50s, again, it's a time period. Like, I would probably have laughed more at his stuff.
It's naughty.
Yeah, because he was like,
Very
oh, he's saying
naughty.
that. Or again, he was saying like what was real to him.
Yeah.
Let me kind of bring that tangent over. So like if I'm looking at Lenny Bruce, I kind of know what I'm expecting from him, right? Dave Chappelle, if I think of Chappelle, I think it's the Chappelle Show. Unfortunately or fortunately, because it was the biggest thing. And I did think it was funny. I loved it, you know?
Yeah.
And so, or I think of his movies, or I think of a couple of his specials where I enjoyed a lot of it. But then I don't think of what the closer was, right? Which is this kind of talk, this discussion thing, which some comedians do, and Lenny Bruce did all the time. That's kind of his shtick, right? And so it wasn't his, and that's why it kind of came out of left field for me. Also, and to your point, there's no jokes. There's no motherfucking jokes in that special. You go back and rewatch that, and I
Are you talking about the closer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I literally ask anybody who's listening to this to show me the joke. And he did some, in quotes, jokes about Jews and stuff that were just like lame duck jokes, like not even real jokes.
Let me ask you this. Did you laugh at all?
Never. Not even once.
So I find that a little strange because I did laugh.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wait, where did you laugh?
I laughed. I thought some of the stuff that he said was funny, and I thought, like for instance, I think when he opened up with like the references to the baby, right, and how he doesn't tell jokes, but what he does is he relies on his inflections and how he says certain things and certain words. So when he says the N word, a lot of people like to laugh because he has this high pitched voice, but he's using the N word to create this intonation that's very almost trademark of Chappelle's style, right? Is it funny? Not necessarily, but you laugh because it's something that you're familiar with and you're used to, and he uses it as a device, as a technique that he uses.
It's his inflection, I would say.
It's his inflection because it worked a lot better when he was skinny and like not as like, I wouldn't say he's buff, but he's filled out, right? So he looks different. He has a different kind of swagger. He's just not this harmless, skinny black guy that could probably have been a crackhead, right? People love that. People find that.
Well, he was that in his show.
Yeah, people find it funny. I found there was some humor in his comedy in The Closer. I did laugh. I will say that. At what part did I laugh? Don't remember, right? But it was funny. I also found myself just paying attention to what he was doing. And is what he's doing traditional stand-up comedy? I don't know anymore, right? Because he by his own mission, he doesn't necessarily want to do that. He wants to be provocative. He wants to be like semi-George Carlin-ish, right? But he doesn't want to be held accountable for anything he says. And I say that because he wants to go, hey, you guys came in here, you know this is a comedy show. Yeah. Are you going to tell a joke? Right?
Right.
Are you going to tell a joke, right? If you go to a Trevor Noah show, Seinfeld for sure just tells jokes. That's all Seinfeld does. He's not trying to harm anybody. Chappelle wants to be this pundit, right? This philosopher, right? He wants to be this, this is what happens when you have a mic and then you start making some money and then you never went to fucking college, right? And you have the mic, you have the floor, people are paying you millions, but he is a good writer.
Yeah, but when you say that, when you say he wants this, like, if we're not following him like in social or something, how do we know what
if he wants to make $500 million for his like TV show like Seinfeld and Larry David does, he does something different, right? He's okay with getting like $100 million for 4 specials, and he can say whatever the fuck he wants because he's already got that money. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, but I'm saying like when you're saying what he wants to be like known for now, right? Let's say he wants to be this pundit, whatever. If I'm just watching the specials,
he's not trying to be known to tell nice, funny, family-friendly jokes.
I've never said that, but
Right.
I'm saying like if you look at Sticks and Stones or whatever, look at different specials, that again the closer doesn't feel like those, and so if you're going off just material, there's nothing that signals to me that that's what he's doing now.
That he's trying to be a comedian. Or that he's trying to tackle all these topics that would seem like taboo. Like, why is he like? There's one episode where he's in the Comedy Store, and I forgot what it's called. Either Sticks and Stones or Equanimity. I don't know which one of these specials he did. I mean, it was. I found it god awful, and he was basically trying to like mansplain and or like to tell women like, women, you got to stop doing this and this. I'm like,
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Are you even doing that? Because like for me as a person that wants to see him tell funny jokes, I'm like, dude, not interested.
Yeah.
Not from you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying that he maybe already started this kind of thing?
He started a while
ago.
back. I'm like, dude, I don't want to see this. When I watched The Closer, I'm like, okay, this was a good close because I knew.
We're like on different pages.
That's okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Like, why we don't need to be like we don't need to be on the same thing.
We don't.
Spy was like, it's a civil discourse on this. And by the way, I'm not 100% like a Chappelle fan. We're just talking about The Closer in particular, right? So did I laugh? That was a question. Did I laugh? Absolutely. You're saying you didn't laugh at all. I got text messages from friends, female friends like, she goes, did you watch this? I'm like, yeah. She goes, it's hard to watch. I couldn't watch the whole thing. I had to stop. This is my friend's like a therapist, and she deals with women with trauma and whatever. And she has she has friends in the LGBTQIA plus community, right?
Nice.
So it's not funny to everyone. And then you watch the show and you see the people in the front row, right? And
they focus on those two people so much, though.
Well, because you see the facial expression, they're not having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not having a good time, and as a entertainer,
right,
you're failing.
Right, because if you go to a small club and did that, then you don't go back up, or you get the red light. You know what I mean? Like you got to fucking get off stage.
So let's talk about that for a second. Right?
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
we're not talking about whether or not Dave Chappelle is funny. We're talking about whether or not The Closer was funny.
Right, but I want to put an asterisk in one specific thing, which we have a few minutes to get to, of why I was frustrated with his TED Talk version of it. But to this point, yeah, if you're doing the comedy special on a stage, and that's, again, your profession as comedian, and we know we've both been on the stage and we both did okay. I would say I did okay sometimes, or just ate shit.
Yeah.
And
I've done both.
Yeah, and if you're up there and he's doing what he's doing for, I don't know how long it was, but a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And you don't got nobody.
Yeah.
You got a few pockets of people, I watched it in the audience, that you got, but most of them you don't.
Right.
Then that's a failure, like from a entertainment standpoint.
Right. But from the standpoint of people who were watching that show that weren't in the stands,
right?
It was, and according to Netflix, so Netflix just tell you they don't reveal their data, but they'll just tell you how well it did, and they stood their ground and they didn't take him down, which I respect that move, right? Because I don't want anything that's been made to be removed.
Right. That's gets to censorship. And
you stand by it if people are watching it, right? Versus people aren't watching. That's why Netflix is like, they need to reveal their data because they're telling us like Red Notice is the most watched show.
I know. Why aren't they giving us the data?
Because they don't have to, and we'll just believe them. Just like their top 10 is bullshit.
Let's come back to that on the show sometime.
Sorry.
No, because I really want to get
we'll
to
come
that.
back next week. So Chappelle, The Closer. We're talking about The Closer, and is Chappelle funny? Yes, Chappelle is funny to me, right? Is he the GOAT? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't like the greatest of all time is the stupidest fucking thing that you can ever say.
Everyone's so diverse.
Yeah, everyone's still going. But let's just say we go, okay, Chappelle is in the running for sure in the top 10 of the GOATs, right?
In your opinion.
There's Tom Brady. There's
nice.
So I'm like, he is the comedian of this time. And there's another thing I want to say before the end of this. Is that he's saying stuff that's offensive.
Okay.
To some people.
To some people. Yeah.
Right? He's saying stuff that's offensive to some people, and some people are standing behind him, more not because they think what he's saying in The Closer is funny, but because they're tired of being subjected to cancel culture's overly tyrannical, aka puritanical, right, viewpoint. And that's how it comes off. And so he's getting followers and he's getting supporters that he probably doesn't want.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm trying to get to? I'm not going to say it.
No, I get it.
Right? So he's saying controversial things, right, that seems disparaging and is disparaging to the transgender community, right? And he's saying it in an apologetic way, and that's what's really getting people, right? So because he's able to say, as a black male, he's able to say all these things and still have the special stay on, and also Netflix is standing by him, and he hasn't gotten canceled. He's still getting whatever. there's people that are probably not in his demographically favored
Yeah.
backing him in silence.
And now
right?
they're super fans.
Yeah,
and
they're super fans.
Well, that brings a whole other thing we'll have to get to another episode because we're out of time. But before we leave, I do want to say one last thing, and it is just that one of the main reasons I didn't like that specific special was because it was about generally one topic. And so I've watched almost every comedy special, right?
Okay, so
we can go that real quick.
Yeah.
Because, and it's about a topic that isn't inherently funny. It's like inherently depressing, and like there's a lot of trauma and bullying going around about this topic. So my point when I first started watching it and thinking he was going to pivot at some point, and he never did, I was like, oh, this isn't funny for this reason, because I like watching someone tackle a bunch of issues that we're all going through, not like this one specific thing, which I only find like, dark news around. And then, and this is, I gotta say this, his one, saving grace about him being friends with somebody who's trans turns out to be a horrific ending to a story. And when you do that, this is important. When you do that in entertainment or even as a TED Talk or as a comedian, you better fucking do something good with that ending. Mm-hmm. If somebody's fucking life ended, mm-hmm. you don't do what he did, which was just like a little pitter-patter, silence. The mm-hmm. audience doesn't know what to do. And then mm-hmm. he makes a joke that, this woman would have enjoyed his comedy.
Yeah.
Which is very egotistical.
Sure.
We're out of time, but like that is one last thing.
Let me say that. So in summation, so to your point,
you're going to summate my thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's
summate.
very important. So when you say it like that, now I look at it from a different point of view. So he stayed on one topic that wasn't a touchy, wasn't like a uplifting, good feel, whatever. And then he wanted to defend his stance by saying that, hey, I had this one transgender female who loved me and she supported me. And guess what? She killed herself because you guys hated on her because she supported me. So it's your fault.
Is that gaslighting or something? Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, and that's how he closed the story. And we're like, so that's comedy. That's the Dave Chappelle comedy, right? So is that comedy?
I wouldn't even call that Dave Chappelle comedy.
Yeah, it's just a really
comedy.
bad TED Talk.